Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome here to the GTOpen Europe Championship. Round 4 here in Monza, and it feels like it's been quite a while since our last round at Paul Ricard. Of course, our last victor being that of Andrea Bellici and Lorenzo Innocenti in their first weekend in the championship. It was a great start to their championship too, because they claimed P2 in race 1, followed up by a race win then in the second one. We've actually had a car spin here already at the very get-go. We've only just really got qualifying underway, 90 minutes and 20, and Indrek Jaska has found himself the wrong way round here, heading through towards the Curva Grande. So a real shame. And already the yellow flag's being waved by the marshals, but fortunately enough, no cars getting caught up in all the carnage. But going back to what I was saying, obviously the championship quest has certainly led us to this point with Ivan Velasco and Jorge Gabezas. We'll take another look here at Indrek Jaska. The tail just getting out from underneath him, and essentially the oversteer kicking in as well. And unfortunately, that does mean he's got to try and self-right himself. Hopefully he can do just that. Green flags being waved here in Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2. Ivan Velasco and Jorge Gabezas currently lead the championship and have done so quite convincingly. Have scored 4 podiums out of the 5 races they've competed in this season. And now heading up to Monza, we are on the penultimate round of the championship. Evgeny Leonov is also chasing him too. Of course, currently sat in that second part of the standings, of course, in behind that of Velasco and Jorge Gabezas. He, of course, having one victory to his name, and it was an important one too. It was at Spa-Francorchamps during the endurance round, with another podium coming at Portimao in the first round of the season. My name, though, is, of course, George Morgan. Joining me in the commentary box, as always, it's Chris Stevens. Chris, how are you?
Yeah, grand, and gosh, good to see the GT Cup Europe back. It's been far too long since Le Castellet obviously weren't with us at Red Bull Ring during the last meeting for the GT Sport organisation. But yes, great to see these Porsche 911 GT3 Cup cars and Ferrari 488 Challengers back out on track together, and the championship doing further work to keep these cars competitive with each other. Obviously, Cup cars not really designed to race alongside each other, but this being a track all about straight line speed, the Ferraris are carrying an extra few kilos of weight and having to run a little bit more downforce just to equalize the straight line performance of the cars a little bit better. But still the majority of the field being made up by the Porsches, and we're seeing more and more of the new 992 generation Cup car as well, as we've got the first flying laps just underway here, but no one pushing the limits just yet. But this, of course, the GT Cup being the younger sibling to the International GTOpen for Pro-Am races.
Yeah, obviously coming into the weekend as well, just some general housekeeping for you, ladies and gentlemen. We have, of course, got the return of a champion, Jan Lauritsen, who won the title last season when he came together, of course, with Dirk Schouten and Lucas Valkera as they battled for the title last season. He's back again and competing this time at Monza, and coming off the back of a practice session in FP3 where he would go to the top for Q1 track racing, who have been such a force in this championship and were last season as well. Another car round as well, this time belonging to Davide Scanaccio, who's unfortunately unseated himself heading through the Lesmo. So there we go, 2 cars struggling with the conditions. It has been a mixture, a mixed bag of wet weather and dry conditions as well. Certain points of the track are drier than others, some are wetter, and now we're seeing the cars make their way down Seraglio Straight, so it's another car to dodge here in the middle sector. Not ideal, Chris.
No, certainly not. Clearly the few damp patches that remain on this track at the moment are catching a few of the drivers out, which is not really that surprising. We've just had the Euroformula Open out, and that's the only track action we've had so far today, so the sun may well be shining. As we see what happened to Skivicchio here, just lost the back end out and actually dipped a wheel in the gravel there. So it was much closer to the inside barrier by the time we picked it up. And yeah, we're going to see, oh, he's run out of space and going to have to stick it in reverse. And Evgeny Leonov having to take some slight avoiding action there as well. But, and we see we've still got some of the older generation Porsche Cup cars, the 991.2, which are still very competitive. And look at this, side by side with the Ferrari. This has been the story pretty much all season long. It's heading out on track now, which is the 54 Q1 track racing Porsche of the reigning champion Jan Lauritsen. heading out on track now, and it's good to see Jan back in the series.
It is fantastic to have him back, and was such a force last season. Actually entered racing at a very late stage in his life, but has taken to it like a duck to water, and now here around the Temple of Speed we'll get to see his mastery out on circuit, and obviously the grid vastly bigger than what it was last season as well. 23 cars in total arrive here to Monza this weekend, so it will be a fascinating encounter. And without any shadow of a doubt, Jan is going to have a lot on his hands, I think, on this occasion. But it'll be interesting to see how he copes against some of the others up at the sharp end, including Evgeny Leonov, who currently hits the top of the timesheet. So 1:57.139, currently the time to beat as well. He's showing improvements again in the first and second sector. But Alex Ryman, purple in Sector 2, and Ryman, incidentally, fastest in FP2. Just to take you through some of those results, Ivan Velasco and Jorge Cabezas were the fastest pairing in FP1. The time there was set at 2:07.228. That was the bronze test. And then, of course, we had FP2, which Alex Ryman topped, as I alluded to prior, 1:52.780. And then a 2:04.735 in free practice 3 is what granted Jan Lauritsen with that P1 time as well. As we now see the cars then stretch their legs down through towards turn 1. This is Alex Ryman that we're currently seeing on screen. The man, the head honcho at the top of the timing sheets, and 2 purple sectors in his last run have granted him a 1:52.920. And incidentally, only a couple of tenths off our best time in FP2.
Yes, and of course was victorious last time out in Paul Ricard. Took his first victory in what was only his second outing in the series. And yes, a very young Estonian driver there is Alex Ryman, of course, coming from the Estonian team, EST1, getting a little deep into the Della Roggia chicane there, having to hop and skip over the curb, but kept it pointing in the right direction. And that was having just done the fastest first sector as well.
Yeah, heading down now into the second Lesmo, and he's got, again, a little bit of traffic here this time. Van Dierendonk just pulling to the inside to allow him to carry on through as they head down Serralio, and he was already purple in the first sector as well, so finding yet more time. So without a doubt, he's going to blitz the time he set in FP2, which of course registered as the fastest time we've seen throughout practice across the weekend here in the GT Cup Open. He has indeed lost a little bit of time, only a tenth of a second approximately, based after what we saw in Sector 1 and 2, so the traffic didn't hinder him too much. Van Dierendonk doing the right thing and pulling to the inside to allow him through on the outside. Indrek Jaska goes 12th fastest ahead of Borgi at Innocenti, who's currently 14th fastest. And remember, one of the newest arrivals in the championship as well, competed in Ferrari Challenge. Mikalian as well in 15th place, as we see Alex Ryman now exit out of the final corner. That, of course, being the Kerber Alboreto, heading down now across the line. He's got a Mertel Ferrari right ahead as well, being overtaken by a Porsche, and it's to the top again for Alex Ryman, 1:52.639, purple right through, but I think the traffic might have just got in the way slightly.
Potentially, yes, because he did have to pass a car in the middle sector, and of course he had that moment at the second chicane as well. Now, the car that's just gone second fastest, Evgeny Leonov, of course, second in the championship, but some 17 points away from our championship leaders, Ivan Velasco and Jorge Cabezas in the Mertel Ferrari. And now there is Leonov, the Volcano Motorsport Porsche, a team that has graduated from TCRs, particularly in the Spanish endurance scene, and now competing with GT Cup machinery for the first time this year.
Innocenti just gone 4th fastest as well. Bozio now 7th. Ganeccio now up to 7th, trying to break away the hoodoo from where he pivoted the car earlier on around the Lesmo corners. We saw, of course, Leonov go 2nd fastest. Ryman now once again looking for more time as he still holds on to the front end, but has now found yet more traffic. Oh, and has to cut away as well and into the gravel. Evgeny Leonov on this occasion, in fact, who went purple in the second sector, who encountered traffic heading into Ascari and now runs the risk of spinning the car. No. He has. Dearie me. It was almost like a comedy of errors there, really, Chris.
A little bit, yes. So that was Maurizio Fondi in the Ginzani Arco Motorsport Porsche that he was trying to get around there. So, yeah, gone deep. And look, there's just a slightly damp patch there on the outside. So has to skip through the gravel. And then, look, this wet grass which is holding the moisture an awful lot better. It looks really silly, but it's very easily done while there's still an awful lot of moisture on the extremities of the surface.
And this puts a huge disadvantage now on Leonov, because obviously, given the fact that he's picked up some of the dew off the grass, you know, some of the water, he's going to have to try and get those tyres back to where they were now as well, and they will cool fairly quickly off the back of entering that surface. So he's now got to try and find the temperature again in order to try and marshal in some improvements on his current laps. We're into the final 9.5 minutes already of qualifying. Alex Ryman still at the top, unperturbed. Leonov, who we saw spin, currently 0.2 of a second plus in behind, just over 0.2 in fact, as we now see him make his way down towards turn 1. He's of course got the 73 of Remy van Straten, who's currently sat in 6th fastest. Alexandre Bochez, 8th fastest, ahead of Stefano Zanini, making up a two-part Bochez brothers team. And they're going to be making their way very soon, I'm sure, around this track. Bozio goes 9th fastest, Zanini down to 10th, Skinicchio now up to 8th, ahead of Bochez. As we also see more swapping further down. Van Dierendonck currently 14th. Laurison is in fact in 3rd as well. In fact, goes to the top, Jan Laurison. So incredible, jumps ahead of Alex Ryman, and that is nearly 5.5 of a second faster. As we now see Xander Prisbalak go 2nd fastest and break into the 3.5 of a second point 2. So Xander Prisbalak 2nd, Jan Laurison now top of the timing sheets. It's like last year all over again, Chris.
Yes, we've got him with Prisbalak there in the AM standings as well, right up there as well. They, of course, are the AM Championships leaders alongside Laurent van der Velde as well. So Q1 track racing doing very well, so it's a 1-2 for them at the moment.
Innocenti purple as well in the first sector. Florentin Sescu putting together a very juicy lap in his own right. We're currently seeing him on screen break through the Ascari chicane, and all dressed in AM colours as well. The Romanian team now heading down through towards the final corner at Kerber Alboreto. It's going to be met once again, this time by Evgeny Leonov, who's looking to try and recover some of the deficit now as Jorge Cabezas goes fastest here with a 1:51.334. That is 7.5 faster than Jan Laurison. Into though Florentin Sescu, who's still purple in the middle sector. Can he achieve a purple final? Was there too much traffic in the final sector? Coming across the line, 2nd fastest behind Cabezas. But what about Lorenzo Innocenti? Of course, the Ferrari driver, who's now making his way up towards the line. Remember, partnered with Andrea Bellici, now makes his way down towards the line. Purple in the first sector, lost a little bit in sector 2, only enough for 8th fastest, wasn't quite able to recapture his pace in the first sector. Do you have to wonder whether that is a thing in the Ferraris here, Chris? They're going to be dynamite down this long straight, but maybe in the corners they'll suffer a little bit.
Absolutely, it's been a trend we've seen all season. The Ferrari, oh, there is an Innocenti there. I think he just dipped it into the gravel on the exit of the left-hander at turn 2. But as we've seen now, Cabezas fastest, 1:51.334 by nearly 0.4 of a second. But the trend all season has been that the Ferrari is an absolute demon in a straight line. It's got more power than the full-on GT3 equivalent of the Ferrari 488, or indeed the 296 that has now been replaced. It's got some 670 horsepower underneath the hood, but the Porsche, which significantly less power, about 510 brake from the flat 6 in that car, but is much more competent through the corners. And now there has been some, a BOP to make the cars work better alongside each other, of course, because Cup machinery is not really designed to work alongside each other. But it makes for some really, really fascinating racing at the moment. And yeah, I mean, you can see the Ferraris and the speed traps some 10 kilometers an hour faster
and the first
at the end
times
of the the end of the straight, and that reflects in the first and probably the third sector time as well. But it's Jorge Cabezas building up to another lap here in the number 80 Mertel Motorsport car. Mertel Motorsport, a team that has come across from Ferrari Challenge, of course, very used to running Ferraris, a Ferrari dealer run by Mario Grumt, and now with the Cup machinery in the GT Cup Open, they're used to running in much shorter races in Ferrari Challenge, of course, and it was actually a bit of a wonder whether these cars were going to go for the 50 minutes or indeed for the Spa Enduro as well. We're really pushing the limits of what these cars can do. Xander Prisbalak here is on a bit of a mighty lap, but he's got traffic here at the last sector and had to jam on the anchors out of the final corner, and I think that's going to kill any potential lap time here that Prispolac might have got. Well, it's still an improvement, but nowhere near as big as it should have been.
No, and with 5 minutes still to go, that gives essentially, you would think, around 2 to 3 laps for the drivers. And you just see that having to swap out wide to avoid the Ferrari right in front of him here, which is not ideal here. It's all for Xander Prispolac, of course, twice a class race winner alongside teammate Laurent van der Velde. Also took that back at Portimao in race 1. They also won the same the same class victory in Spa-Francorchamps, of course, going towards the AM standing. Jorge Cabezas, though, finding an almighty second in the middle sector already. So this is going to be a huge time here for the Mertel Motorsport Ferrari as they round the final corner here at Curva Alboreto. He's going to put his foot to the floor yet again now. Where is this going to send him? He set a 151.334 provisionally prior to this very lap, but coming up towards the line now, Jorge Cabezas. It's 1.3 seconds found. It's 150.156, and that places him 1.3 ahead of Xander Prispolac in second place. And there is a car off. It's Florentin Sescu.
Yes, now where has that ended up? We have a yellow flag at turn 9, so that would suggest to me that is the inside of a scar that poor Tincescu has ended up at, and it looks pretty beached, to be honest, and 3.5 minutes left on the clock, and we do have a red flag out, and I imagine that will be the end of qualifying as Tincescu tries to spin up the rear wheels on that Porsche, but that ain't going anywhere.
No, currently emblazoned in gravel. And this is a car we want to talk about as well, Chris.
Yes.
The very fascinating livery on this one.
Yes, fantastic livery on the number 81 Mertel car, which is the car shared by Stephen Licorice and Luca Ludwig. But this is a new livery, as yeah, let me just see it coming round the first Lesmo there, but this is for a charity, which I'm going to butcher the German pronunciation of, but I'm going to give it a go anyway. It's the Lebenshilfe im Nürnberger Land, which, if you want to translate that to English, roughly it's Help for Life. It's a charity that supports mentally disabled people, and they have painted and designed that car that is being raced here this weekend, the number 81, and absolutely fantastic. It's a charity that the team has supported for a number of years as a Ferrari dealer, and yeah, Mario was telling me the stories about getting them in passenger laps and the support they do, the work they do with that charity as well. And also, because that team was here last weekend for the Italian GT, ended up getting a bit of extra mileage in the cars, that the car got damaged. I think it was the front bumper they had to replace, and suddenly had to get it repainted again and get it back down there on Monday and get it repainted. But no, it looks absolutely fantastic, and great to see support like that in the championship as the cars head back into pit lane under red flag conditions. Yeah,
a great addition certainly to the grid, as unfortunately for Florentin Sescu, that car not mobile in the gravel and is well and truly stuck and is going to have to be retrieved, unfortunately for Florentin Sescu, who has certainly worked hard all season long, but nevertheless it can be a very punishing track, Monza, should you get it wrong, and now sees himself in the gravel. Of course, scoring P10. They scored points in both races back at Portimao in the opening round, and with a P10 and a P8 in race 2, came back and scored his next points at Paul Ricard with a P7. But unfortunately, this time around, they're going to have to try and battle the face of adversity. But one team that will not be worrying about such things is Ivan Velasco and Jorge Cabezas. They are on pole position heading into the race this afternoon.
Yes, now there is an incident under investigation between car 52, which is the Xander Prispolac Q1 track racing Porsche, and the number 19, which is the Mertel Motorsport Ferrari.
Sounds like that was around the Curva Alboreto, was it not?
Yes, it could well have been. So that was Bozzoni at the wheel of the Mertel car. And yes, you're right, John, it could well be the final corner incident there. See Jorge Cabezas looking back at either some data or some video footage there. Nice Ferrari phone case he had there in the car.
Do you think that gives him 2/10?
Of course, George, of course. Every little helps. So we do have 3:33 left on the clock. No confirmation yet, actually, if we're going to get going. I mean, we could go for a one-lap shootout. There is time for that, but it's a matter of whether race control will actually decide that that's worth it.
Yeah, well, I can tell you this, folks, that should it stay like this, Simon Velasco and Jorge Cabezas will clinch their second pole this season. Their first one coming back at Spa-Francorchamps at a very busy weekend where, of course, they were on the track with the GTOpen Championship cars. As now Florentin Sescu, his car back underway, heading out of the Ascari chicane and make his way down the stretch before reaching Curva Alboreto. The marshals doing a fantastic job of getting the car free and back on the circuit, as we just saw there, Tinsescu trying to certainly try and flush away some of the gravel that had found its way in the rims of the car, as we take a look at Evgeny Leonov in the pit lane.
The way you got to do it, you got to just stamp on the brakes and then it all comes out the front grille, apparently.
That's one way to make friends of the marshals.
Yes.
But yes, absolutely tremendous. You can see there the brooms at work once again. Good to see all smiles, though, on the faces of the marshalling team as we now take a look at our top three, or certainly a car that we're looking at, sorry, on the in-track grid. Remy Rantraten, who we're currently seeing come through the Ascari chicane, and quite a team making up this car this weekend. And we've also got a lovely look here at Roberto Bosio's Porsche coming through Ascari too. Such a dynamic set of corners, and Monza in its own right, a haven for great racing, and the Italians are very passionate about it as well. And I'm sure Roberto Bosio himself is going to look to try and bring together a big result. And great to see Nicolas van Durendonk back with us as well, and has been also a staple of this championship for quite some time, of course, alongside Quentin Antonell.
Yes, that's a new livery on that car as well, because it was running a sort of yellowy orange one. As we are back underway now, green flags are now waving, so it's going to be a one-lap shootout. Well, pretty much for pole position by the looks of it. But yes, that 57 got new livery on it, so it's more purple now, which is nice, because actually the 55, as we see there, that was more what the 57 looked like last time out. So that's handy. Thank you, Q1 Track Racing, very distinguishing liveries. So as it stands, with less than 3 minutes left on the clock, it is Jorge Cabezas on pole position by 1.3 seconds to Xander Prispalak, which also happens to be the AM pole position as well. Florentin Sescu, who should be able to take part in the remainder of this session, given his car was brought out of the gravel, some 3/10 behind him. And now car 47 under
Alex
investigation for crossing the white line at pit exit. Now there were a couple of incidences of this from yesterday. I seem to remember Bryce Aaron in the Euroformula getting a reprimand for this yesterday. Now, because it's qualifying, they may well take a slightly more stern view of that. But yes, Alex Ryman currently in 7th place, under investigation at the moment.
Yeah, as we now see the cars getting ready for one final chance to dance. Jan Lauritsen, who are currently riding on board with down the Seraglio Straight, makes his way down through towards Ascari now, as the cars get ready for one last run. Currently Lauritsen, sat 4th fastest in this train of cars. Florentin Sescu in 3rd, and Xander Prispalak in 2nd. Jorge Cabezas still 1.3 seconds out on top at the sharp end, as we now await the timer to tip below the final 1 minute and 30. The cars now bundling their way down through towards the Rettifilo chicane, and they'll get their laps now underway. Mello, who's currently sat in behind. That, of course, the 52, Xander Prispalak's car.
Now the front bodywork there, flapping away on the 55 of Mello there. We'll see it at the end of this straight as well, as we got car 77 under investigation as well for the same thing as Alex Ryman. That's Indrik Jaska. But yes, obviously the Mello there in the slipstream of his teammate, and yeah, you just see it fluttering away a little bit there. So something not quite as secure as it needs to be.
No, heading through the Roche yet. Of course, ideally, he'd want to keep all his parts on the car, heading through the final sector. Of course, doesn't want any aero infringements, especially on a final lap run here in qualifying. Of course, he has got Xander Prisbalak in front of him here. Let's see what the times are looking like. 35.125 for Prisbalak in sector 1, 35.017 in the first sector for Tincescu, 38.9, and then, of course, not necessarily representative, should we say, at this point, as we now see an improvement here from Alexandre Boschez in 10th place. He's just found at 34.842, highly competitive in the first sector. Innocenti also finding a little bit of time in sector 2. The first sector, though, not ideal, but just look at the amount of cars we have hurtling down the Serralio Straight this time around. Improvements on the board as well for the likes of from Nicolas van Dierendonck, as well as Alex Ryman, sorry, not van Dierendonck, Ryman, and that of Innocenti. As we also have Glauco Solieri finding a little bit of time as well. And further down, we have the improvements for Roberto Bosio and Mello as well. But purple for Cabezas in the first sector again. He is on yet another mission. A 34.293 is incredible. He's already 1.3 out in front right now, ahead of Xander Prisbalak. And now looking to try and launch a charge with another 0.3 of a second on top of that original time that he has made. But he has a small matter of the second and third sectors to find, as we now see more cars come up towards the line. And a purple second sector. He's improved again. This is absolutely sensational from Jorge Cabezas, of course, top of the championship standings, and now looking to usher in a domination here at this point. Alex Ryman now 1.1 seconds. He goes second fastest, ahead of Xander Prisbalak, who is now in the pits. Tincescu's in as well. Lorison has finished. He will not improve from 5th, but Jorge Cabezas, who is finding time after time, really nestling himself in to the Temple of Speed here at Monza. He went 0.3 faster in the first sector. He nearly went 0.4 faster coming out of the second sector, but he comes into the pits. He's not finishing the lap. Talk about an anti-climax.
Just teasing us there, but well, he still has 1.1 seconds over the rest of the field, and plenty of cars already reached the checkered flag, and
this might be the reason.
In the pit lane.
Is he parked a little early, or no?
No, I think he's just put it into the sort of little Parc Ferme area. I hate to say it as well, George, but the car we were talking about with the beautiful charity livery on it, the 81, I think has a problem, because Luca Ludwig is at the wheel of the car, but it's registered a lap time of 9 minutes 11.5. So I fear there may be some problems there.
Goodness me. Well, Jorge Cabezas, despite teasing us with that final run, I'm sure he'll laugh at me later with that, but takes pole nonetheless. Alex Ryman second, Xander Prisbalak in third, Florent Tincescu fourth, Jan Larison in fifth, Remy van Straten in sixth, Evgeny Leonov in seventh, Mello in eighth, Alexandre Boschez in ninth, with Lorenzo Innocenti in 10th place. Nicolas van Dierendonck goes 11th fastest, with Stefano Zanini in 12th, Davide Scanicchio in 13th, with Glauco Solieri 14th, Indrek Jaska 15th, Stefano Bozzoni in 16th, Samuel Bosio 17th, Fabio Fabiani 18th, Stefano Borghi 19th, and Maurizio Fondi in 20th place. 21st place went to Roberto Bosio, Jim Mikhailian in 22nd, and Luca Ludwig, who had some issues earlier on, hasn't yet set a representative time, and staying in the pits, a potential issue with the car. Currently sat in 23rd, but Jorge Cabezas, a mesmeric 150, 156. One can only imagine what he could have done, no doubt stretched into the 149s, but celebrating nonetheless as he likes. And top of the championship, they look set to continue this run. Xander Prisbalak, he finished third in the timing tower after a very busy qualifying. Of course, we had the red flag that came out and brought the cars into the pits. There was one last chance to dance. Prisbalak unable to hold on to that second place, but came home third. Alex Ryman would take second away from Xander Prisbalak at the very last moment, and certainly gave a good account of himself at that point, but no one could stop the man at the top. It was Jorge Cabezas who would go on to take pole once again, the second time this season they've achieved that, the first time being back at Spa-Francorchamps, and they have a great chance, but they're standing by with Alfredo Filipponi.
Jorge Cabezas, pole position at Monza, ahead of race one. It's the best way to start the weekend.
Yeah, it was an incredible qualifying. The team has done a very impressive job with the setup. We have worked very hard to do that, and I'm so happy to have this pole position. And now we must to fight for win the race.
And keep the lead in the champion.
For sure.
Well done.
Well, a delighted Jorge Cabezas, who's going to be thrilled, but we'll see how he gets on. And of course, we go racing later on this afternoon in the International GT Cup Open. We'll see you then. Take care. Goodbye.